You guys have air conditioning everywhere.
Yep, this is America.
As you may know, Europe is now going through a heat wave. Temperatures are reaching way above 100 degrees. It is literally unbearable.
Pav, you're a European. In the US and can't handle all the AC. Why is it freezing inside? And hot outside? I can't handle it.
There was a time when Europeans criticized Americans' habit of using air conditioning as weak, environmentally damaging, and not knowing how to enjoy summer. But when millions of tourists landed in the US this summer, they were taken aback. Air conditioning is not a luxury, but a survival privilege. Do you believe it? The number of heat stroke cases in Europe is even higher than the number of unrest incidents in the United States, or the funny truth that many Europeans fear air conditioning just because. They are bad at math when converting Celsius to Fahrenheit. Watch this video to find out how the green living bias has cost Europe dearly. Now, let's look at the highlight of this summer, the 2026 World Cup. Millions of fans from England, Germany, and France are flying to the US with an extremely confident mindset. They used to believe that the summer heat was just a minor issue, easily solved by opening a window or finding some shade. But reality has thrown a bucket of cold water, or rather a bucket of hot water, on that confidence.
Gotta show you this because it looks like just another door to the entrance. But when you walk in here, look what happens. You're already inside the stadium. It looks like in a freaking shopping mall.
Unbelievable.
It doesn't
This is
look
not a stadium.
It's AC inside.
They have the craziest thing here in America. So it's blazing hot outside. But look at this. I'm going to step into this establishment and it's chilly. It's hot outside, but when you step in...
Have you seen their reaction? Now, no one remembers the past love for a green life without air conditioning anymore. European tourists, just stepping from the 3-5 degree Celsius heat outside into stadiums or Walmart supermarkets in the US, immediately switch sides. One friend who rented an American SUV was amazed to find that the seats emitted a cool breeze that even cooled his backside. Just a few hours after arriving in the US, those who had previously criticized Americans' habit of using air conditioning did a complete 180 and declared, "Air conditioning is the greatest invention in American history."
Almost no one has AC in Europe because it's just too expensive. Electricity is really, really expensive. And they also believe it's bad for you. They seriously believe it's dangerous or something. I don't know. I used to believe that before living in the US. Now I love my AC.
Many of you might wonder, why are Europeans experiencing such severe heat shock? In London or Paris, summer temperatures can also reach 30 to 35 degrees Celsius, right? The answer lies in a factor that people often overlook: humidity. In southern states of the US, like Texas or Florida, the heat is not just the temperature on the thermometer. When the humidity reaches 80 to 90%, the sweat on your body cannot evaporate at all. Sweat accumulates on the skin. The chest of the shirt is soaked, causing the body to completely lose its ability to cool itself. An English fan described it extremely accurately. "The air here is thick and dense like a bowl of soup. It's still 29 degrees Celsius at midnight, and you can barely breathe." That's why the seasoned European athletes who just came to the US and for training have collapsed in droves. Their stamina was drained not because they were weak, but because they had never faced this kind of humid weather back home. This difference exposes a huge infrastructure gap between the two sides of the Atlantic. In the United States, nearly 90% of households and public buildings are equipped with central air conditioning systems. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, this figure is only a mere 3% to 5%.
Unlike the United States, many European governments have long restricted the use of air conditioning in homes, workplaces, and even hospitals. These policies were implemented to supposedly reduce carbon emissions and help fight global warming. However,
for Americans, air conditioning is not a luxury item, but a basic infrastructure service like electricity and running water. On the contrary, Europeans consider it a non-essential household appliance. If you find this analysis interesting and have learned many new things about the cultural differences between America and Europe, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your likes are the biggest motivation for me to continue creating quality content like this. However, the question arises, why has a modern, wealthy Europe chosen to say no to air conditioning for decades? Is it just because they prefer to live in harmony with nature? Or are there architectural secrets and historical mindsets behind it that few people know? Let's move on to the next part to decode the architectural heat trap, the reason why the old European houses turn into artificial ovens in the summer. To understand why Europeans went from criticizing American air conditioning to craving it, we must return to their homes in the summer.
Things in the USA that shocked Germans. Air conditioning. Okay, listen. As a German living in the US, nothing prepared me for the indoor AC situation. In America, it can be 100 degrees outside. And the moment you step indoors, boom! Welcome to the Ice Age.
It's a tad hot, isn't it? Anne, please leave your understatements at home. We are burning in a glass oven designed by a sadist.
Can we turn the AC on?
We don't have AC here.
What do you mean you don't have AC?
This is an office in 2026. Europe doesn't believe in AC.
Sounds both endearing and funny, right everyone? But this is not a rare sight. In England and many European countries, summer means you are stuck in your own home with no way to escape the heat. Opening the window lets in hot air, closing it makes it stuffy. No ice makers, no swimming pools, and most importantly, absolutely no air conditioning. However, from a scientific and planning perspective, why are houses in Europe so terribly hot? The answer lies in a centuries-old architectural mindset. Europe was built just to survive the winter.
Europe's built environment wasn't built for the summer. It was almost always strategically designed around winter.
For hundreds of years, the biggest challenge for European architects was keeping warm. They built extremely thick brick and stone walls, installed fireplaces, and opened large south-facing windows to capture maximum sunlight. According to data from the European Commission, space heating and hot water account for up to 77.1% of the total energy consumption of EU households. Their entire housing and infrastructure policy serves only one question: how to avoid freezing to death. But as the earth warms, those excellent winter heat-retaining designs turn the apartments into solar ovens with elevators in the summer. Moreover, things get even worse with the phenomenon known as tropical nights. When the nighttime temperature does not decrease, such as 31 degrees Celsius at midnight, the brick walls, which have absorbed heat all day, will start radiating heat back into the room. Your body completely loses the opportunity to self-repair. So why don't they just go buy an air conditioner and install it? Things are not as easy as in America. In Europe, most houses are hundreds of years old and are classified as heritage sites. Drilling a hole in a historic wall or hanging an air conditioning unit outside a window in Paris or London can result in a huge fine from the local authorities. If you find these in-depth architectural analyses useful, don't forget to like and subscribe to support me in creating more quality analysis videos. But the truth is, architectural or legal barriers are not everything. Behind Europe's steadfast refusal to embrace air conditioning for many years lies a deeper and much stranger reason: psychological biases and ancient medical beliefs from the 17th century. Let's move on to the next part to see what Europeans used to think about air conditioning. So we have already completed half of the journey. And if by now you still think that legal or architectural barriers are the only reasons Europe says no to air conditioning, then get ready for the funniest part of today's video. This opposition often doesn't come from the wallet, but from an unbelievably conservative mindset.
Well, if you did not know, in Germany, there's no AC at all. Like, air conditioning it's not a thing here at all. Like, AC in Germany stands for a crime. It doesn't stand for air conditioning because having it is a crime here. That you go to hospitals and all the patients are on their last breath and they're like, because they literally are sitting in a hot oven.
Yes, you heard it right. Better to die from heat shock than to turn on the air conditioner. That is the motto of many people from the older generation in Central and Eastern Europe. In their eyes, that air conditioner blowing out a refreshing breeze is no different from a toxic device that destroys health. But why is there this strange fear? Let's go back in history to the 17th and 18th centuries. The rejection of humoral balance by Europeans actually originated from humoral medicine, an ancient medical theory. Ancient people believed that artificial drafts or sudden breezes would disrupt the flow of humors in the body, causing various illnesses. This oral belief has deeply ingrained itself in the consciousness over hundreds of years, creating a solid social prejudice. Even though modern science has proven this to be completely irrational, the older generation in Europe still maintains the habit of hating artificial wind. Even many people are prejudiced against. A regular standing fan! They would rather close the door and endure the 5 degrees Celsius room than let the wind in. Not stopping at ancient beliefs, this resistance sometimes also comes from comical mathematical blunders.
All right, so you're Italian, so you're looking at 107 degrees as your like super duper high temperature. You get 1, maybe 2, 3 days of this. It's tough. That's tough, okay? Do you need AC in that? If you have a house with good ventilation, you can typically get by with a few fans.
A European friend hears an American say it's 70 degrees back home, and in his head he immediately converts it to 70 degrees Celsius. He calculated in his head, 70 degrees F must be around 65 degrees C. Can you all imagine it? 65 degrees Celsius is equivalent to 149 degrees Fahrenheit, a temperature that can boil a person. Because of this data misunderstanding, he was convinced that America was a scorched desert planet in the movie Mad Max, and that was the only reason Americans had to cling to air conditioning to survive. It's truly a cumbersome misunderstanding, isn't it, everyone? If you enjoy these humorous yet eye-opening analytical perspectives, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next content. But behind these laughable stories lies a harsh reality. As heat waves become increasingly brutal, the price Europe has to pay for these green living biases and ancient beliefs is no longer just an inconvenience, but shocking death tolls. Let's move on to the next part to confront the alarming health data that few would expect.
Why do Europeans not believe in air conditioning? Europe had over 60,000 heat-related deaths in 2022, while the US only had 1,700. That's 35 times more, which means more Europeans are losing their lives to heat than Americans are to gun violence. So why is this? Only 10% of European households have air conditioning compared to 90%.
At this point, the story is no longer about laughter or humorous cultural misunderstandings. We need to face a bitter reality. The disregard for air conditioning is costing human lives. Do you know this bitter truth? The number of Europeans who do not survive each year due to heat-related illnesses is even higher than the total number of Americans who are unfortunately affected by severe violence. That is a real number that you can completely verify. Looking back at history, the 2003 heatwave disaster affected more than 70,000 lives across Europe. It seemed like a once-in-a-century event, but no. By the summer of 2022, this number was over 61,000 people. In 2023, it was nearly 48,000 people, and in 2024, the number surged to an alarming level, over 62,000 people. Heat waves are not as dramatic as floods or wildfires. It doesn't leave behind a pile of rubble to film. It takes place quietly in closed bedrooms, where the vulnerable pass away and death certificates rarely mention the words climate change. But why has the situation become this dire? The prestigious medical report Lancet Countdown Europe 2026 has just released some chilling statistics. The number of days receiving extreme heat warnings daily in Europe has increased by up to 318%. At the same time, the level of exposure to dangerous heat in infants and people over 65 years old has increased by 254%. Europe is famously known as the Old Continent, with a very high proportion of elderly people. When heat waves strike, the elderly, those with poor thermoregulation who live alone in stone apartments as sealed as ovens, are the quietest victims. Traditional advice like just opening the window at night and drinking enough water has completely failed when tropical nights arrive, making the house unable to cool down for 24 hours. And this inadvertently creates a new crisis: cooling inequality. Air conditioning in Europe is now deeply dividing the rich and the poor. The wealthy, with their economic means, can easily spend money on installing modern heat pump systems, upgrading their homes, or simply leaving the city to vacation in the cool mountains. On the contrary, those with low incomes are stuck in poorly insulated attic apartments, unable to open windows at night due to noisy streets, and cannot afford the expensive electricity bills. The debate about air conditioning is no longer about being stylish or not, but about who has the right to feel safe in their own home. If you find these realistic and profound analyses resonate with your perspective, please take 2 seconds to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps spread this useful information to more people. So, In the face of this life and death risk, can Europe shed the carbon pain and remove energy barriers to make air conditioning an essential infrastructure like the United States did half a century ago? Let's move on to the next part to analyze the energy war and the economic puzzle behind the air conditioner. If you are still watching the video at this timestamp, you are definitely a wonderful audience who enjoys in-depth analysis. Now, let's delve into the core economic political puzzle behind this cooling war. Historically, Europeans have often viewed American air conditioners with ecological concern. They take pride in their green lifestyle, criticizing the excessive use of air conditioning in America as an act of energy waste and a crime that contributes to global warming. But from the perspective of modern energy economics, this is an entirely unnecessary psychological burden known as carbon guilt. The actual data will astonish many people. Turning on air conditioning in many European countries is now much cleaner than in the US. Thanks to the boom in solar power in Spain and the abundant nuclear power in France, each kilowatt hour of electricity produced in Spain emits only about 86 g of CO2. Meanwhile, in the state of Georgia in the United States, this figure reaches 442 GCO2, more than 5 times higher. In other words, Europe has created a very good foundation for renewable and clean energy, but the environmental hesitation inadvertently prevents people from using that clean energy to protect their health during the summer. Due to the lack of thorough preparation beforehand, every time a heat wave sweeps through, the European market falls into a state of costly shopping frenzy. When the heat reaches 40 degrees Celsius, many residents of Paris or London have to frantically rush to buy portable air conditioners, small machines with a plastic tube sticking out of the window. However, from a technical perspective, this is the worst and most expensive solution. These portable air conditioners are noisy, have poor cooling efficiency, and consume a lot of electricity, because when you stick the exhaust hose outside, hot air from outside continues to flow through the door gap into the room. That is not a smart adaptation strategy, but rather a manifestation of panic when an infrastructure system is completely passive in the face of the weather. So what is the sustainable way out for Europe? The answer is not to tell people to continue enduring, nor to plug in millions of those noisy mobile air conditioners into the sockets. Europe is forced to undertake a large-scale infrastructure shift. The optimal solution at present is to promote the installation of reversible heat pumps. This is an intelligent technology that allows for a reversible process, providing efficient warmth during the cold winter and utilizing the same system to cool the house in the summer. When combining heat pumps with a clean electricity grid, external thermal barriers, and urban greening, Europe can both uphold its environmental commitments and protect the lives of millions of people. If you find these energy economic perspective analyses truly valuable, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to help the video reach more viewers. Your support is a great motivation for me to continue producing high-quality videos. At this point, we have traveled a long journey from humorous reaction stories on social media to the hidden aspects of architecture, healthcare, and energy economics. So the final question is, what does this change mean for the future of Europe? And will the world's perception of air conditioning change permanently? Let's move on to the final part of this video together. So we have gone through a journey full of surprises, from the laughable and tearful reactions of European tourists at the 2026 World Cup to the profound insights into architecture, healthcare, and energy economics. Many of us once thought this was simply a humorous debate on social media about the lifestyle habits on either side of the Atlantic. Europeans prefer to open windows to let in natural breezes, while Americans like to turn on the air conditioning and snuggle under thick blankets. But when we piece together all the data, we realize a much larger reality. The cool, temperate summers of Europe will never return. Climate change is turning Europe into the continent with the fastest warming rate on Earth. The fact that Americans have been equipping themselves with air conditioning for half a century is not because they are weak or dependent, but because the harsh geographical and weather conditions require cooling to be a survival infrastructure. On the contrary, Europe's previous rejection of air conditioning was not entirely due to their conservatism, but because they truly had never needed it in the past. But times have changed. The air conditioner has never been the enemy of the environment. The real enemy is the delay in infrastructure transition, the inequality where the rich escape the heat while the vulnerable have to endure it, and the outdated prejudices that prevent people from protecting their own health. A continent that once pioneered the construction of excellent public transportation systems and stringent environmental standards is fully capable of transforming cooling into a modern, clean, and equitable infrastructure for everyone. At this point, I really want to hear your perspectives. Which side are you on in this summer battle? The resilient faction would rather turn on a light fan, sweat a little to save electricity, and live in harmony with nature? Or the AC addicts having to set the air conditioner to 20 degrees Celsius and cover themselves with a thick blanket to get a good night's sleep? If you find today's video informative, with fresh and interesting analysis, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any in-depth analysis videos on the channel. Your support with every click is the greatest source of energy that helps the production team continue to delve deeper and bring higher quality products. This video is compiled and analyzed based on medical news sources, energy reports, and publicly discussed content on media platforms. All images and short documentary videos used comply with the fair use principle for the purpose of education, analysis, and news commentary. The video is not intended to attack any individual, community, or nation. Thank you all very much for taking the time to watch the video in its entirety. Hello, and see you in the next videos.